T-minus 10 minutes. T-minus 9 minutes. T-minus 8 minutes. T-minus 7 minutes. T-minus 6 minutes. minus 5 minutes. Minus for minutes. Minus 3 minutes. Minus 1 minute. Stand by.
How about that?
Happy Football Friday, everybody. I know you've been waiting for it all week, although there's going to be a curveball or two coming your way over the next 2 hours. We're live on the Game Plus television network across Canada, where we are known as Canada's favorite daytime sports talk show, but also airing in 32 U.S. states, where they love football as well. I'm here at the Golden Ticket Sports Center, the Moose. Darren DuPont is in Toronto, Ontario, Canada, where there's a big football game tonight. And Jim Barker resides there, too. He's coming up in hour 2 from the CFL on TSN. But, Moose, we're going to jump right into this with the quick 6 show topics and the really big story. And I think you got a sense where this is going. It's Toronto, but it's not football. The big story, the first of the day, the Blue Jays are rolling. George Springer hit 2 home runs in an 8-5 win as the Blue Jays swept a 4-game series against the New York Yankees Thursday night to take sole possession of first place in the American League East. Toronto completed a 4-game home sweep of the Yankees for the first time in franchise history. Springer particularly caught fire, smacking 4 home runs and 11 RBIs in the series. It just continues. To be honest, I wasn't sure they were going to be able to pull that off last night. They never have, and they did. Oh, my word. They must be going nuts there in Hogtown.
Man, are they ever. They are excited about this ball club. We're glued to the television sets. I watched it last night. And, and it was a game where you mentioned, first home sweep ever of the Yankees, had a 4-game series, hadn't happened before. And they were a little shorthanded. Like when Chris Bassett was on the mound, Dan Shulman kept saying, they're going to need 100 pitches out of him. They're going to need him to go a little longer because the bullpen is worn out after this series. They've had to use the bullpen quite a bit. Sure enough, he did enough. Close game, fun game. And, Springer, he was great. Lucas was great with that 14-pitch at bat he had in the 4th. Great game last night.
Start spreading the news. The Blue Jays are in first place on this, the 4th of July. And speaking of that, happy 4th of July to all our U.S. friends, neighbors, and viewers that are tuned in here today. And I think it rolls into the automatic question, Darren. And it's our poll question today for EMJ Marketing. Elevate your brand and engage your audience with EMJ Marketing. Check out emjmarketing.com. Are the Blue Jays headed to the World Series? And for me, why not? Put me down as a hell yeah, baby. Why not? They've already they've exploded past my expectations, yours. To be honest, I think everybody's but their own. And I'll be honest with you. What I'm realizing now at my advanced age, I've been looking at a lot of things really wrong for a really long time. And you used to always think, I think it was a hockey thing per se, but it's like, let's just keep the bar low and one day at a time. No, because the rich guys, the billionaires, they're like, we're going to do it. Let's do it. Let's manifest it. We're going to the World Series. So let's do that. I'm saying, yes, the Blue Jays are going to the World Series.
You got an energy today, man, because I was going to sit here when you were asking the question and be like, okay, let's pump the brakes. Everything's really great right now. But you know what? What the heck? They are going to the World Series. I'm on board. Let's do it. You got me convinced. Let's enjoy the moment. Look at when you go this far and you're in first place, this team can play ball and it's for real. It's a long season, but yeah, I mean, they got as good a shot as anybody right now.
Well, we're Canada's show. They are Canada's team. And for those in Toronto where we have a lot of viewers, you tell me what they need, because they probably need to add something, but I can't really tell you necessarily what that is. They're getting quality starts, as you mentioned. They're knocking out a lot of runs. Vladdy's an all-star again. We all love the skipper, John Schneider. And by the way, it was nice to see him at the podium after the game last night, just literally smiling and feeling relieved. I mean, literally, man, nobody will ever remember that they've never swept a 4-game home series against the Yankees. Who knew that? Right? Going into the week, we didn't think it was going to happen. So all of a sudden, they're knocking down barriers. They're doing things that we didn't even think were possible or were even things. So my question is, what do they need to add? For the baseball aficionados, even though I'm broadcasting baseball now, it's not the same out here in the Western Canadian Baseball League, which, by the way, we've got a huge game here tonight at home against the Saskatoon Berries, the Moose Jaw Miller Express. But I don't know. Betta's better. But I've said back at TD Ballpark in Dunedin in the springtime when we were there for the last game, me and Brent from Wellington, Florida. You remember me leaving there going, Darren, I can't believe the vibe, the positive buzz in the whole ballpark. I just thought it was because there was a bunch of Canadians that were happy watching the Blue Jays and they were day drinking and, they were happy on a Sunday. No, there was a palpable vibe then. I didn't think it would carry on this long. Do you sense or feel that around Toronto with the Jays?
Yeah, I do. I feel that. I don't think anybody thought it was going to go here. And now all of a sudden the ballpark's full. Everybody's catching on. I mean, look, we didn't go on Canada Day, but I took a browse at StubHub, the secondary market. The cheapest ticket I could find was $159. Just so you know, when I want to go to a ball game last minute, I get a ticket for like $18 usually and walk in the door. Couldn't get tickets. This is the hot ticket in town right now. And yes, it's the 1 month of the year where baseball dominates, right? I mean, yeah, the CFL is rolling, and for our viewers and you and I, that's a big part of what we do. But no basketball, no NFL yet, no NHL. It dominates. And so there is definitely a buzz. What do they need to add? Maybe an arm. Obviously, I saw that they were talking about the last 5 starts. The starting pitchers for the Jays had averaged less than 5 innings per start, which isn't good enough. So maybe an arm, maybe a bullpen arm, maybe a bat. I don't know.
Stacy's watching at Access World headquarters, writes in and says, wonder what kind of moves the Jays will make at the deadline if they keep rolling, which is what we brought up. Big Bob is watching in Trois-Rivières, Quebec. He says, team spirit, great atmosphere on the field, in the dugout, and it's obvious the players are having fun. And so all the ingredients are there for success. Well, if you are as big a believer in culture as I am, then they don't need anything. But if I can transfer it to other teams or sports, look at the Florida Panthers added a lot the last 2 years at the trade deadline, and look what it did for them. Other teams did too. They didn't fiddle with the culture. Rich in Edmonton writes in, he says, bottom of the lineup is on fire. Carlos in Indianapolis writes in, he says, it's not even Labor Day and you're already punching the Blue Jays ticket to the World Series? Hell yeah, baby. Like I said, as I've realized, I've been looking at a lot of things wrong for a real long time. And why not put it out there? Why not manifest it? Why not speak it into existence? Darren, you're big on that, right? Why shrink away from the fact that the Blue Jays are the number 1 team in the American League East, which we feel is usually the top division in all of Major League Baseball? That means they're one of the best. So if you were being back, we'll be back. Okay, we'll be back in a moment here on Game Plus.
This is a test pattern. This is what happens when your video company screws up. You don't want your clients to see a screw-up. Hire a company that only does video, so it won't screw up. Then, people who give you money will see less of these and more of you. Skycron.com/live.
Hi, my name is Logan Stankoven. And I'm Connor Bedard. We're both Hockey Gives Blood player ambassadors and proud to be blood donors.
There are thousands of patients each year in Canada that rely on a generous stranger to save their life.
Please book an appointment today to donate blood at blood.ca/HGB. Did you know that you can help save a life? And you can start right now.
Stem cells from male donors increase chances of positive outcomes for patients, yet they only make up 40% of our registry.
Today, there are hundreds of people in Canada searching for their life-saving match.
You can be a patient's best hope. Be a hero by registering with Canadian Blood Services Stem Cell Registry now.
I'm Bridget Lacquette. I'm a First Nation Olympic silver medalist, and I'm proud to represent Indigenous hockey players across Canada. Each year, hundreds of Canadians need a stem cell transplant from an unrelated donor to save their life. anyone can have a hard time finding a stem cell match. But for Indigenous peoples, it can be even more difficult, because just over 1% of prospective donors on Canada's stem cell registry are of Indigenous backgrounds. Be a hero. Join me in Hockey Gives Blood in helping to make a life-saving difference to those in need. Register today at blood.ca/beahero.
Shania Twain.
Let's go, girls.
Live in Moose Jaw. Shania Twain. One incredible show. Live at Temple Garden Center, July 7th. With special guest, Lindsay L. Get tickets Friday, March 21st at 10 a.m. at the Temple Garden Center's box office or sasktix.ca. For more, visit shaniatwain.com.
Famoso, Italian pizzeria and bar. Taste, savor, share. Famoso, the spirit of Italian. Come in, enjoy.
Welcome back on a Football Friday, everybody. By the way, the Western Dodge text line is open. 902-518-3033. Proud partners of the Rod Pedersen Show. Western Dodge and Moose Jaw. Big city selection with small town service. Now, Darren, we're here for a Football Friday to talk football. And again, happy 4th of July to our U.S. viewers. But they come here for the football talk, specifically CFL, because the games are on down there, we're told, on CBS Sports Network. And last night, the Stampede Bowl. I'm not sure how much of it you were able to watch, Darren, but Vernon Adams Jr. threw his first 2 touchdown passes as a Stampeder to help the Calgary Stampeders beat the visiting Winnipeg Blue Bombers 37-16 in the inaugural Stampede Bowl. Damon Webb and Derek Moncrief returned interceptions to score as the Stamps handed the Bombers their first loss of the season. And the Calgary Stampede, the greatest outdoor show on earth, opens today. What a wonderful lid lifter for the biggest party in Canada and I guess on the planet in July. But the game was a dud. It was a dud. That's not anybody. Well, it's Winnipeg's fault. It's not Calgary's fault. They have nothing to apologize for. But the game wasn't that good. What did you think of what you saw last night?
You know what? The party looked awesome. And that's what matters when it comes to this. It's an event. And that's what I love. I was thinking about this yesterday and about this show. And I'm like, we go to Grey Cup and we used to do the tailgate parties and things like that. I'm like, wouldn't it be for the CFL? They take the panel out there to the Stampede Bowl. I'm like, where could we take this show? And I'm like, we go to the season opener probably in BC for the concert they always have. Would have been Snoop Dogg this year. We'd go to the Stampede Bowl now. We'd go to Labor Day. We'd go to the back end of Labor Day, the Banjo Bowl, either in Edmonton, Calgary, Hamilton. We'd go to the CNE game in Toronto, right? We'd go to the Grey Cup. Now you got these little events. And doesn't that feel like the NFL? They got Thanksgiving. They've got the games overseas. They've got all these different little things every few weeks throughout the year. There's always an event game. Not every week, but every few weeks. I thought that was a party last night. Brett Michaels up on stage. The crowd was into it. You got Lapo and Enoch in the cowboy outfits with the bolo ties. It was fun last night. And Calgary, the football game, Vernon Adams looked good getting those touchdown passes. But that defense, man. Derek Moncrief looks like he's 25 years old, and the defense came to play last night.
The leagues call those, by the way, tent pole events. As you look at a tent pole, right? The peak events, whatever. Put a name on them. And I liked it a lot. Again, the game sucked. So I went to the early portion of the Miller Express Red Sox game and then raced home to watch the Stampede Bowl. Wasn't anybody's fault. It doesn't say on the ticket, you're guaranteed a great game. Like, what was it at halftime? 29-6?
Yeah.
And I had football friends from the States. They're probably watching now, texting me saying, how horrible Winnipeg looked. They're like, where did they go out to eat last night? They look bloated. I'm like, it'll be different in the second half. It wasn't. They didn't get better. So Big Bob in Trois-Rivières says, Stampede Bowl, great idea. John Ohm, stamps look good. And I'm not talking about the post office. I always like that. Lick the stamps. I always like that. But if you're Winnipeg, let's look at this for a second and say, because they were bad. As you said, Zach was bad. And Glenn Suter was, calling him out on that second last play of the first half, saying, he could have run here. He could have run the clock out by accident and not had any points with the way he was scrambling. Do you just forget that? How do you deal with that?
Yeah, it seemed like, he could have ran it with a 13-yard run, which he's done once already this year. But if he didn't get in, he would have, ran the clock out. But he also had, was it a wide open Dalton Schoen, I want to say, in the end zone? Like wide open. And he overthrew him. Like Zach doesn't do that. And then receivers shown a couple of times, other receivers dropping passes. Like it was an uncharacteristic evening from the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. But that's why I wanted to shout out the Calgary defense, because I thought they were forcing a lot of this too. It wasn't all on Winnipeg miscues. They were off, definitely. But this Calgary defense was a problem, what they were dialing up against that Winnipeg offense.
Well, and as far as the game itself, I mean, I was going to have the poll question, is the Stampede Bowl a good idea? But I think it doesn't matter what everybody says on a poll. I think the overwhelming answer is, yeah, it's a great idea. You just said it. Fans are like, I'm here in a football market, the football capital of Canada. People were talking here in Saskatchewan about the Stampede Bowl, and they're like, it'll be the next Labor Day weekend. It'll be like the Labor Day game. It'll be the Stampede Bowl. We'll all know, like what you're saying, and the tentpole events in the National Football League. It was a great idea. I want to walk back, however, those that said who would win in the race between the world's fastest cow and Enoch Mwamba, the former number one overall pick in the CFL draft, former NFL CFL linebacker. I didn't know they were going to give Enoch a 10-yard head start. Give me a break. So, yeah, he won the race barely. You've been at Stampeder games, haven't you, Darren, where they have the guy dressed up in the cow outfit and they spin him around and it's for WestJet. Whatever the hell it is. Yeah, that wasn't fair. But the other thing was the crowd said 22,000 and change at McMahon. Frankly, by what it looked like on TV, it looked like way more. And you have to also understand when people get something in their head, it's incredibly difficult to get it out. You're probably never getting it out. And so I posted a photo from my friend Curtis that was at the game. I put it on our Facebook page, and I said, nice crowd at the game. Did you see the comments by chance? People went off going, Rod, what are you talking about? There's nobody there. Blah, blah. Well, what do they say? You look at this and see what isn't. I look at it and see what is. I'll guarantee it's better than what it's been. So I think we can all agree the Stampede, but you got to start somewhere, Moose.
Yeah, I don't know when the photo was taken, but yeah, okay, I can see it both ways. Like I can see that, yeah, there was a lot of empty seats in the photo, but that's early on. To me, I thought that was kind of maybe pre-game, halftime, whatever. And that's how I looked at it, because on TV, you're right, it looked fantastic. So there's reasons for people to be. Everybody can capture a crowd and make it look bad. You can capture a crowd and make it look good. It came across great on TV. I think everybody had a great time that was there. The game for the Stampeder fans was good. And I love that it's at the beginning. Yeah, you might get lost in the middle of Stampede, but if this becomes like the official kickoff to Stampede, you go to the football game and then boom, it's party time. I love that. Like, I love it. And I hope this continues.
I think it's fantastic. Ron in Calgary writes in on the Western Dodge text line from the 403. He says, congratulations to the Stamps for winning the first Stampede Bowl. So fitting for the home team. ... Go Riders. Riders, of course, are off this week. They play the Stampeders next week. If they wanted to guarantee a huge crowd, they could have had Saskatchewan at that game in the schedule. But my guess is maybe they didn't want to do that because they didn't know how it would draw, and they know the Riders would be a big attendance, so why waste it on that game? I don't know what they were thinking. All I know is that everything was positive, and like they, as Cactus Jack Wells used to say, the legendary Winnipeg broadcaster, and it all turned out nice again, except for Winnipeg. And it's funny because Michael Wynn, I saw what he put on Twitter. He watches this show every day at Ice Time Sports in Winnipeg, and he goes, LOL, Calgary, Stampede Bowl winners, LOL, which I get. Who cares? Take it in July. We'll be around in the Grey Cup. How else? Again, the Bombers are looking at it their way. What about their fans? I would probably look at it the exact same way as Michael Wynn. Congratulations, you won your little Stampede Bowl. See you around in November, if you're lucky. That's what I'd say.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And, I mean, Winnipeg's 3-1, but you would think they were 0-4 after that game last night. They're 3-1. They were undefeated. And, yeah, they got soundly beaten. But it is a marathon, and if anybody knows it, it's Winnipeg fans. They'll find a way to be in the conversation in November. They always do.
So we got a lot of comments coming in. I appreciate it on the text line for Western Dodge, 902-518-3033. Drive with confidence. Shop Western Dodge in Moose Jaw. Financing, selection, and service you can count on. I'm going to push them to later when Moose is done for the day because I enjoy having him here, and I want his comments, like on this. Point 3. The Toronto Argos entertained the Hamilton Tiger Cats on Friday Night Football. Toronto snapped a 3-game skid and got their first win last week at Ottawa, 29-16. Hamilton now 1-2, swept all 3 meetings with the Argos last season. And I've got some wonderful game notes here. Well, for one, you don't even need to be the biggest CFL follower or fan to have your timeline deluged by talk of Derek Sluka. He's an Argos rookie, right? He's last week, he became the first player in CFL history. Folks, that's over 100 years. First player ever to record 2 100-yard plays on both defense and special teams in the same game. It's never freaking happen. You wonder why we love sports. Stuff like that.
So cool. So cool. And it grabbed attention all across North America. You had all the networks in the US talking about it. You had all like the bar stools and all these online publications. Social media went crazy, and it was all about the CFL is freaking awesome, man. That's what the message was. That was cool. And it is cool when, there's so much history to still be written in a first last week.
Well, where's Luke Wilson on that? And so, by the way, I don't know. I'm old school. The old people love me. The young people still trying to figure me out. And the old guard sees me, I think, as a bit of a pain in the ass. But I love the history. So as I read these game notes, Darren, as I look at this, multiple 100-yard plays in a single game. Other guys have done it, like, for instance, 2 100-yard plus kickoffs or punts. They're all on special teams. But nobody's ever done a play on defense and a play on special teams. Never happened. But here's some names for you. I don't know if this means anything to you, but Larry Highbaugh of the Edmonton Eskimos returned 2 kicks of 109 and 116 yards back in 1975. Earl Winfield of the Ticats did it in 1988. Bashir Livingston, that's getting into your vintage now. Bashir Livingston with the Argos did it in 2005. And Chris Rainey of the BC Lions did it in 2015. Again, all returns. So when you start digging, when you're bringing up the name Larry Highbaugh, something cool must have happened. Those are CFL greats. You join that group, man. Do you love the history? Because what I see, I feel like today's teams, not just young people, but the teams don't honor the history as much as they used to. Or is it just me?
No, it is tough because, let's look at me, for example. And there's a lot of people like me that are in CFL roles in social media departments, media and communications, et cetera. They're all my demographic, my age now. My generation is the word I'm looking for. And we're just not thinking about it because we didn't live it. So it's hard, right? I get it. But when that stuff does happen and you do get a chance to leaf through the history books and bring this up, it is awesome. And it brings some more significance to what's happening today. So I hope we see more of it.
Colin in Ottawa writing in to be a pain in the ass. He says, I seem to remember a certain RP viewer Oh, he's not speaking of me. Okay. He says, I seem to remember a certain, oh, it's him, suggesting
Speaking
a
of
CFL
himself.
game at McMahon. Yeah, Colin, can you stop speaking in the third person, please? He says, I seem to remember a certain RP viewer suggesting a CFL game at McMahon to kick off the Calgary Stampede, but a certain host saying CSEC not being interested in this amazing idea. I don't remember that. You do. So bravo. As we've been saying all week, I've been putting in my commentaries, things change. Oh, and by the way, John Ohm writes in from Winnipeg with a point that I wanted to make earlier. John Ohm. He says Gizmo was the GOAT of returns. The Giz. He was. But when Mario Alford became the all-time CFL leader in kick return touchdowns earlier this season, I was like, Giz wasn't even on the top 6 of the list, top 5 of the list. And I'm like, what the? So I delved into the history book, and I'm like, all Giz did was punts. He didn't return kickoffs. And it was 20-plus years ago, and I called the games. I just never really thought about it. So we're having a big football talk today. We'll be back with more in a moment here on the Game Plus Television Network, streaming live and found on all major podcast platforms.
Famoso, Italian pizzeria and bar. Taste, savor, share. Famoso, the spirit of Italian. Come in, enjoy.
Shania Twain.
Let's go, girls.
Live in Moose Jaw. Shania Twain. One incredible show. Live at Temple Garden Center July 7th with special guest Lindsay L. Get tickets Friday, March 21st at 10 a.m. at the Temple Garden Center's box office or sasktix.ca. For more, visit shaniatwain.com.
Did you know that you can help save a life? And you can start right now.
Stem cells from male donors increase chances of positive outcomes for patients, yet they only make up 40% of our registry.
Today, there are hundreds of people in Canada searching for their life-saving match.
You can be a patient's best hope. Be a hero by registering with Canadian Blood Services Stem Cell Registry now.
I'm Bridget Lacquette. I'm a First Nation Olympic silver medalist, and I'm proud to represent Indigenous hockey players across Canada. Each year, hundreds of Canadians need a stem cell transplant from an unrelated donor to save their life. Anyone can have a hard time finding a stem cell match, but for Indigenous peoples, it can be even more difficult because just over 1% of prospective donors on Canada's stem cell registry are of Indigenous backgrounds. Be a hero. Join me in Hockey Gives Blood in helping to make a life-saving difference to those in need. Register today at blood.ca/beahero.
Hi, my name is Logan Stankoven.
And I'm Connor Bedard.
We're both Hockey Gives Blood player ambassadors and proud to be blood donors.
There are thousands of patients each year in Canada that rely on a generous stranger to save their life.
Please book an appointment today to donate blood at blood.ca/HGB.
Hiring a video company shouldn't be complicated. Click, pay, done. Skycron.com/Regina.
The RP show continues from the Golden Ticket Sports Center. Make your birthday unforgettable at Golden Ticket Sports Center in Moose Jaw. Book your birthday party with us for a fun-filled celebration packed with sports, games, and endless excitement. Visit GoldenTicketSportsCenter.com to reserve your spot today. We've talked about the Blue Jays. That's our poll question. Are they going to the World Series? I'll get to the results in a moment. After Moose adjourns, we've talked a lot of CFL, and we'll talk more. But point 4 of the quick 6 show topics here on a Football Friday is hockey. Point 4, the Winnipeg Jets will introduce Jonathan Toews at a press conference this afternoon. The former Blackhawks captain signed a 1-year deal with the Jets after missing 2 NHL seasons with health issues. The 36-year-old Winnipeg product won 3 Stanley Cups with Chicago and Olympic gold with Canada in 2010 and 2014. Moose, how do you think this is going to play out?
Well, I think it's going to be really great. I mean, one thing I would caution is don't get get excited, but temper the expectations. He hasn't played in a little while. And I think the contract is perfect. It's all incentive based. So I don't think we're sitting here signing a $6, $7, $8, $10, $12 million player and expecting those types of results. But I think here's a player with a tremendous amount of upside, leadership, obviously high-end skill, really good, can take key face-offs for you and be a guy who can really benefit you with that leadership come playoff time. And with Nikolai Ehlers signing in Carolina, that's a big hole to fill. I don't expect him to step in and just fill all the production necessarily, but the ability is there. And I think we're tremendously just excited to get him back into the NHL and see what he can do.
Well said. I think we should all applaud the move on both the Jets and Jonathan Toews. Everybody knows it's his hometown. It can't hurt. We had Brian Munns on with us a couple of weeks ago, longtime Jets broadcaster, and I said, what if he's not the old Jonathan Toews? I said, how patient will the Jets fans be? And he goes, I think they will be. I mean, my God, if there was ever a hockey town. And how much do they love their team, and how much do they love their Winnipeggers? So it's a match made in heaven. Where else should he play? I mean, that's the one thing. That's the perfect fit about him going back to his hometown team. It's kind of like John Ryan signing back with the Saskatchewan Roughriders after 14 years in the NFL. Where else was he going to play? But Saskatchewan, slightly different, but there's just a nice fit there. And it was great for Johnny with his family, extended nieces and nephews being able to come watch him play. And maybe that's the same situation with Jonathan Toews. I don't know. Any other free agent thoughts you might have? Looks like it's pretty much wound up and the insiders have gone to the lake, if you've seen it on their social media.
I have. It's exactly what's happened. Now they're saying goodbye until the fall. I like, Brent Burns at 40 years old going to Colorado on a 1-year deal. He's a player I think really likable. He can maybe provide a bit of a spark of veteran leadership to that, Avalanche group that got Gabe Landeskog back towards the end of the year or into the playoffs. I like Colorado kind of loading up maybe to take another run at with this window. You got McKinnon still. As long as you have Nathan McKinnon, they'll be in the window, and Cale Makar. But I like that for Colorado, and I like that for him. So that was a good one. And we haven't really talked. I mean, the Rangers getting the big defenseman from the LA Kings, Gavrikov, I thought was a really underrated. And we just haven't talked about it a lot. I don't know if it's underrated, but that was a big splash as the Rangers try and get back and hope that last year was just a blip for them.
Well, we had Jersey Jim Barker on yesterday, and I said literally, he's in Jersey, everybody, although he joined us yesterday from Vermont where he's on vacation. But I said, what are the Rangers doing? Blowing out Chris Kreider, blowing out Jacob Trouba, blowing out Keandre Miller. He goes, to paraphrase, GM Chris Drury's trying to save his ass. Oh, yeah, blowing out Peter Laviolette, too, the head coach. So they're blowing it up there in New York. We'll see how it turns out. John Ohm says, well said, Moose, on Jonathan Toews. We love our Jets. Jeremy in Winnipeg says if the Jets get half of that Toews from Chicago, it'll work out great. He says Detroit with Patrick Kane probably be option B. Patrick Kane hasn't been half of the Chicago Patrick Kane in Detroit, and look at the surgery that he had on his hip. Like, it's amazing that he came back at all. In the case of Taves, no, I don't think anybody expects that he'll be Chicago Jonathan Taves. However, near the end of his time there, I've mentioned this on the air recently. I watched him in Calgary. The Blackhawks were there. It was his last game of the regular season, and he was playing last minute. I believe the Blackhawks won 5-4, taking draws in the O zone, D zone. He's still, at that time, that Jonathan Taves. And we forget, Darren, you're paying attention to these players playing older and playing very well at advanced ages, like Sergei Bobrovsky, is 37. Sidney Crosby just signed a new deal, 38. And look at football with Tom Brady and Aaron Rodgers. It's age is now just a number specific with the recovery options these players have, right? I wouldn't be fooled off by the age of Jonathan Taves. Maybe he'll be way better than we all think.
Well,
has anybody thought about that?
We sit there and say 40 is the new 30, 50 is the new 40. And it is true. We're living longer. We're healthier longer. Tom Cruise is, what is he, almost 70 years old? He's in his 60s for sure. He's 60 years old, and he's jumping out of planes, driving motorcycles off of cliffs, all that kind of stuff. Jonathan Taves, too. Again, we don't, like they say, what do they say, long COVID or whatever he was dealing with and other things. But, we don't really know what Jonathan Taves is dealing with. And one thing that he wasn't dealing with was the grueling physical toll of an 82-game season plus playoffs on his body. So he may be a little rested. I know he was dealing with things, so it's not just all relaxation and sunshine and rainbows, but he might be fresh. He might be ready to go to take a run at this, and clearly hungry too. And the leadership, the skill doesn't go away. Once he gets back into shape, like playing shape and the stride and stuff, I think he could be fine.
I don't know. Jeremy in Winnipeg, who ironically is a Red Wings fan, he says Patrick Kane looks like he's 28. And I got to say, no, not that I've seen. I watch him live in Sunrise, and I saw the Wings twice this year. He looks okay. He doesn't look anywhere near Patrick Kane at 28. He looks like Patrick Kane coming off hip surgery at 38 or whatever the hell that he is. So I think we're breaking soon. I'm not entirely sure, but it's coming up. Last thoughts on CFL games this weekend, Darren. Saturday, BC at Montreal. Sunday, Ottawa at Edmonton. Thoughts on those?
Yeah, I think it's going to be a really good weekend of CFL football. And for me, now it's BC and Montreal that I'm looking forward to. That's the game I'm circling. I think it's going to be a fun one. BC, a team that I still don't know what their identity is yet. And largely, I think that's because we haven't, had some, consistency at the quarterback spot, which always seems to be the case with teams and their identity. It all hinges around quarterback play. But I'm looking forward to that one and tonight's game too. I mean, all of them. I could just give you a case for all of them, but that one I'm really looking forward to. And then tonight's game should be a good one. Rivalry games are always fun.
We did our picks yesterday, and I got them written down. I'm not tracking them as much.
I almost
tweeted
last night or found the clip. Winnipeg will win tonight. Winnipeg. I was so definitive yesterday.
It was echoing in my head. You saying that. Oh, Winnipeg will win. And I went along. You led me down the garden path. I went along with you. I'm blaming myself as much as you.
Yes.
There's a lot of comments coming in from the viewers. I'll save those to after the break because I just want to talk about your lovely tan. You've been getting a lot of that beautiful GTA sunshine, Southern Ontario sun, I can tell.
Thank you. Somebody asked me like a week ago, they're like, wow, you're glowing, your skin, it's so golden. He's like, where have you been? You must have been. I'm like, I've been outside. Thanks for noticing. They thought I was gone to Florida or California or Cuba or somewhere. I've not, just been outside, enjoying the sun in the summertime.
It has been a fantastic summer, certainly out here in Western Canada. Somebody was saying the other day, they're like, are the farmers happy or are they complaining? They're always complaining. I said, well, it's kind of a big deal what the weather is for them, and it is the province's number one economic driver. Number one industry is ag, just so you know. You're probably not here if not for farmers. Did you eat today? Thank a farmer. I get a little triggered. But no, they're very happy. I'm the son of farmers. A lot of rain and now a lot of sun. It's perfecto. Mose, have a great weekend, and for God's sakes, stay safe.
I will. You too.
All right, folks. It's just you and me for the next 40 minutes. When Jim Barker joins us, we'll be right back here on Game Plus.
Hi, my name's Logan Stankoven. And I'm Connor Bedard. We're both Hockey Gives Blood player ambassadors and proud to be blood donors.
There are thousands of patients each year in Canada that rely on a generous stranger to save their life.
Please book an appointment today to donate blood at blood.ca/HGB. Did you know that you can help save a life? And you can start right now.
Stem cells from male donors increase chances of positive outcomes for patients, yet they only make up 40% of our registry.
Today, there are hundreds of people in Canada searching for their life-saving match.
You can be a patient's best hope. Be a hero by registering with Canadian Blood Services Stem Cell Registry now.
I'm Bridget Laquette. I'm a First Nation Olympic silver medalist, and I'm proud to represent Indigenous hockey players across Canada. Each year, hundreds of Canadians need a stem cell transplant from an unrelated donor to save their life. Anyone can have a hard time finding a stem cell match, but for Indigenous peoples, it can be even more difficult because just over 1% of prospective donors on Canada's stem cell registry are of Indigenous backgrounds. Be a hero. Join me in Hockey Gives Blood in helping to make a life-saving difference to those in need. Register today at blood.ca/beahero.
Shania Twain.
Let's go, girls.
Live in Moose Jaw. Shania Twain. One incredible show. Live at Temple Garden Center, July 7th. With special guest, Lindsay L. Get tickets Friday, March 21st at 10 a.m. at the Temple Garden Center's box office or sasktix.ca. For more, visit shaniatwain.com.
RP Show continues on a Football Friday, everybody. And as I said, we got some viewer comments that have come in on the wonderful topics that we've had today. I will say thanks to our U.S. friends for tuning us in on a holiday, stat holiday for you down there. 4th of July. For those that have just caught up, what we've been talking about, we've got through all of the Quick Six Show topics. I can't believe it. Number one, the Toronto Blue Jays. First time in franchise history, which goes back to 1977, just wrapped up a 4-game home sweep of the New York Yankees. That's never happened before in franchise history. So the poll question is, are the Blue Jays going to the World Series? People are writing in and laughing at us for asking that. I don't care. I'm okay with being laughed at. 69% of respondents are saying no, by the way. They're not going to the World Series. Settle down. Point two is the Stampede Bowl last night. Not much of a game, but it looked like a lot of fun at McMahon Stadium in Calgary, where the Stampeders rolled the Winnipeg Blue Bombers 37-16. Tonight, it's the Toronto Bowl, the Hog Bowl in Hogtown, Hamilton at Toronto. I read some game notes there. Derek Sluka, all the rage in pro football over the last week, doing something that's never before been done in 100 years. 2 touchdowns of 100-plus yards in one game, one on D, one on special teams. Never happened. It happened last week for him, Derek Sluka of the Argos at Ottawa. And are you noticing all these records that are falling? What is it? Is it the universe? Is it training? Is it the fountain of youth? What is it? It's something. And it's fascinating is what it is. Just talked about Jonathan Toews being introduced this afternoon in Winnipeg, and what a wonderful story. What a great story. Which, by the way, what doesn't kill you does make you stronger. I can attest. And with the Winnipeg Jets, what they went through with Mark and Brad Scheifele's situation in the playoffs, surviving the round 1, game 7 scare and the most dramatic comeback in franchise history, and then the painful loss in game 6 at Dallas. Don't think that's not going to galvanize the Jets moving forward. They felt like a different Jets team all year. I think Connor Hellebuck conquered a lot of his demons in this playoff run. I do. And I wouldn't say it if I didn't believe it. These could be some really good times ahead for the Winnipeg Jets, and Jonathan Toews showing up right on time. Boom. And then the weekend games in the CFL. BC at Montreal on Saturday, Sunday, Ottawa at Edmonton. Big fan of 4 games over 4 nights, as I've said many, many times. Regarding my rant on Farmers, a good one for those of you that missed it, a positive one. Jeff, the Stamps fan, writes in, he says, yes, farmers are the root of society. They sure the hell are. It was Paul Harvey that said, have you eaten today? Thank a farmer. I said that to our ag news director at the last radio station that I worked at, Jim Smalley, the Ayatollah of canola. I said to him, have you eaten today? Thank a farmer. Right, Jimmy? He started crying. That's how much it meant to him. As God is my witness, that happened. Sports update for Heavy Jim. No Dunn Martin, no problem. Quincy Guerriere and the Montreal Alliance stepped up in crunch time without their leading scorer in the lineup Thursday night to erase a 13-point deficit and stun Saskatchewan in a target time thriller at SaskTel Center. The only problem, the story doesn't say the score. I just ripped it off a news release from the Canadian Elite Basketball League and just realized they don't have the score. But you know what? Who cares anymore? It's 2025. The facts, the details, they don't matter. I'm like, what? Why would I think a little detail like the score of the game would matter in a story? Here's the next one. There might be a new star trio in the CEBL facing the prospect of blowing what was once a 22-point lead, up by just 6 in target score time following a furious rally. The threesome of Evan Gilliard Jr., Sean Miller-Moore, and Greg Brown III connected to deliver one final dagger as the Calgary Surge held on for a 94-85 win over the home Brampton Honey Badgers on Thursday. So they had the score there. Calgary won in Brampton on Thursday night. How about that? Saskatchewan Rattlers losing at home to the Montreal Alliance. I can tell you Sean Miller-Moore is my favorite player in the entire CEBL. We went to an event together in Calgary. We didn't go together, but we ended up at the same event. How about that? It was Ferrari unveiling their new line for, let's say, 2022, 2023, whatever it was. And I got talking. There was a bunch of Calgary Surge players there, plus their team owner. And I really like that Sean Miller-Moore. He's been with Calgary for some time now, and he's a hell of a player. Toronto kid, right? I think they call him Muggsy. So, yeah, I follow the CEBL enough. But last night, hey, Sean, I did not go to the game. My God, what a Thursday it was, by the way. Caught the start of the Red Sox and Millers baseball game, which ended up a wild one. Moose Jaw won 19-16 at Curry Field in Regina Thursday night. There was the Stampede Bowl, and then this. The Blue Jays looking to stay red hot tonight against the Angels. George Springer hit 2 home runs, and the Blue Jays beat the Yankees 8-5 Thursday night to sweep a 4-game series and take hold of first place in the American League East. Toronto has won 8 of its last 10, heading into a 3-game home set against the Angels tonight. So that all went on last night. What a Thursday. NHL free agency should slow down with every big name off the board now. Nikolai Ehlers and Dmitry Orlov put pen to paper on Thursday. Ehlers signed a 6-year, $51 million contract with the Hurricanes after 10 seasons with the Winnipeg Jets. Orlov joined the San Jose Sharks on a 2-year pact totaling $13 million. There's more, but I promised I would get to some comments here from the audience. Greg in Calgary writes in, sharp guy. He says Detroit will be a tough series with their good pitching. For sure, but they're playing the Angels, right? Earlier this season, the Blue Jays lost a series against the Detroit Tigers, but they're not playing the Tigers this weekend. Noni writes in from Calgary, 902-518-3033. She says, morning, Rod and Moose. There's plenty of room for others to join the Blue Jays bandwagon. For those of us who have been longtime fans, this team is special this year. There's lots of ball yet to play, but there's definitely a possibility they'll make it to the end. How about that? Well, and I totally understand that. I'm glad Noni's welcoming everybody on the bandwagon. It's one thing that I realized that was new to me. I didn't even really understand once I got out of 20 years as voice of the Rough Riders, how this whole thing about how long you've been a fan matters to people. Because I can tell you without question, the teams don't care. The teams don't care. I can say that with a high degree of confidence. Because the new fans' money and the old fans' money spend just the same. And listen, I get it. Yeah, well, I've had season tickets for 30 years or 50 years. Great. But, from the junior hockey level, the CFL level, to the NHL level, Florida Panthers season ticket prices and costs have gone up exponentially to the point that some of those 30-year season ticket holders, they just can't anymore. They just can't. When what's the team supposed to do? I like what the Tampa Bay Buccaneers did. We were there in 2013 with a sports trip, and I was hosting 60 people there at Raymond James Stadium. I was sitting beside a guy, and I said, what, your season ticket holder? We were in the crowd, and he said, yeah. I said, how much are your season tickets? He goes, $250 for the year. I'm like, what? For the Tampa Bay Buccaneers? Even in 2013? He goes, yeah, the Buccaneers have a deal that their season ticket prices will never go up. If you sign up for a season ticket, your costs will never go up. Who wouldn't do that deal? How many teams do that, by the way? I've had never heard of it before or since, to be honest, but that's what they do in Tampa Bay. Glenn in Medicine Hat writes in. He says, does the Calgary Stampeders win over Winnipeg make CFL watchers begin to take the Stampeders seriously? Or does it all just get chalked up as the Bombers laying an egg? Both can be true. I was taking Calgary seriously right from the jump, but things haven't totally gone according to plan. My West division was Winnipeg, Sask, BC, Calgary, Edmonton. And BC's muddling that. BC is screwing that up at 1-3. And I'm afraid I don't think you can fall back on the talk of, yeah, but our quarterback's hurt. Because Saskatchewan's found a way to win games without their guy. Toronto's now won games without their guy. Winnipeg's won games without their guy. So that's not an excuse anymore for the BC Lions. They are letting their fans down. Sorry, I love the BC Lions. They treat me great, but you tune in here for the analysis, I think, and the real talk, and that's what we're doing. So let's keep the comments going. I guess a good one just came in. Hang on, Motorhead. We'll be carrying these over into hour 2. Get it pumping. And the Western Dodge text line, too, 902-518-3033. We'll be back after this brief pause on the Game Plus Television Network and streaming live.
Hiring a video company shouldn't be complicated. Click, pay, done. Skycron.com/Regina.
Famoso, Italian pizzeria and bar. Taste, savor, share. Famoso, the spirit of Italian. Come in, enjoy.
Shania Twain.
Let's go, girls.
Live in Moose Jaw. Shania Twain. One incredible show. Live at Temple Garden Center July 7th. With special guest Lindsay L. Get tickets Friday, March 21st at 10 a.m. at the Temple Garden Center's box office or sasktix.ca. For more, visit shaniatwain.com.
I'm Bridget Laquette. I'm a First Nation Olympic silver medalist, and I'm proud to represent Indigenous hockey players across Canada. Each year, hundreds of Canadians need a stem cell transplant from an unrelated donor to save their life. Anyone can have a hard time finding a stem cell match, but for Indigenous peoples, it can be even more difficult because just over 1% of prospective donors on Canada's stem cell registry are of Indigenous backgrounds. Be a hero. Join me in Hockey Gives Blood in helping to make a life-saving difference to those in need. Register today at blood.ca/beahero.
Did you know that you can help save a life? And you can start right now.
Stem cells from male donors increase chances of positive outcomes for patients, yet they only make up 40% of our registry.
Today, there are hundreds of people in Canada searching for their life-saving match.
You can be a patient's best hope. Be a hero by registering with Canadian Blood Services Stem Cell Registry now.
Hi, my name is Logan Stankoven. And I'm Connor Bedard. We're both Hockey Gives Blood player ambassadors and proud to be blood donors.
There are thousands of patients each year in Canada that rely on a generous stranger to save their life.
Please book an appointment today to donate blood at blood.ca/HGB.
Welcome to Hour 2 of the RP Show, everybody. Coming at you live from the Golden Ticket Sports Center in Moose Jaw, Saskatchewan. We got our buddy Sean here working on the fans. I'm guessing it's too damn hot in here. Is that the deal? Yes, so that's how hot it is. Welcome to Saskatchewan in the summer. Here's one thing that you people don't know. It gets colder here than anywhere, and it gets hotter here than anywhere. And I've felt the Southern Ontario, Eastern Canadian humidity. Trust me, I have. It's hotter here, and it gets colder in the winter. Ta-da! Lucky us. So they're having issues with the flooring of the basketball, volleyball court here. It is what it is. They'll get it figured out. We have the best crew in the business. Jim Barker coming up from the CFL on TSN in the very next segment. It's a football Friday. The Moose is already adjourned. We have room now for more questions and comments on the Western Dodge text line, 902-518-3033. Proud partners of the Rod Pedersen Show, Western Dodge and Moose Jaw. Big city selection with small town service. Quick 6 show topics for those that joined us late. The big story of the day is the Toronto Blue Jays. It is. That's what's leading all the headlines across the country as we air in Canada on Game Plus TV, and we allow 32 U.S. states to peer in because for some reason they like us. I don't know why. The Toronto Blue Jays are rolling. George Springer hit 2 runs in an 8-5 win as the Blue Jays swept a 4-game series against the New York Yankees to take over sole possession of first place in the American League East. Toronto completed a 4-game home sweep of the Yankees for the first time in franchise history. And George Springer's been particularly hot this week, smacking 4 homers and 11 RBIs in the series. So, again, so many people are afraid to do something, try something, say something for fear of being laughed at. That's never been a concern of mine. Maybe it should be. I don't care. So I said, let's put it out there. As a matter of fact, I got to give our business manager, Joe 747 Gunnis, credit for the poll question today. He said, are the Blue Jays going to go to the World Series? It was his idea, not mine. So if you're laughing, laugh at him. 69% of respondents are saying, no, they're not going to the World Series for the first time since 1993. Well, how do you know? Who actually thought that they would be in first place in the American League East on July 4th? Not this Cowboy, not this Texan. And by the way, hello to our friends in Texas. Hope you guys are having safe celebrations down there. As I was on 806 Sports Radio yesterday, and they're like, Rod, so you're a sober coach, huh? So what would you say to those that are going out to get blasted tonight? What would you say? I would say maybe don't get blasted. That's not being hypocritical. Nobody got blasted more than me, but spent 10 years paying for it. So maybe if you don't want to, don't. That's what I would say. God bless America. The Stampede Bowl we're talking about. Vernon Adams threw his first 2 touchdown passes as a Calgary Stampeder to help the home team win 37-6 over the visiting Winnipeg Blue Bombers Thursday in the inaugural Stampede Bowl. Davin Webb and Derek Moncrief returned interceptions to score as the Stamps handed the Bombers their first loss of the season. It was the first ever Stampede Bowl, named in honor of the greatest outdoor show on earth, which begins today in Calgary. Shania Twain, the parade marshal, right about now, I think. That would have been a secondary poll question. Do you think this was a good idea, this game? The marketing of it? I'll say it again for the benefit of those that weren't tuned in and to remind those that were tuned in last hour. I'm here in the football capital. Yeah, this is a hockey town where I'm at, Moose Jaw. The annual Warriors golf tournament's going on just outside the doors here as we speak. But it is football first. This is the Alabama of Canada, for those that don't know, where football is number one. And so they're talking about that Stampede Bowl and last night, and they're like, this is going to become like Labor Day. It's going to be a tradition. Moose said, like the NFL Thanksgiving Day games and the international bowls. Yeah, that's what I think. It's a wonderful idea. And 22,000 and change showed up for the game. It was not a good game. The score at halftime was 29-6. But there's no guarantee that you're going to get a good game. And it's funny because somebody wrote in here last hour and said that the quality of the play in the CFL has been getting better every week. I guess. I mean, longtime viewers of this show know I never played football. Quite frankly, I'm shocked I was ever hired to be the voice of a pro football team. And even more shocked that I lasted 20 years with absolutely no idea what I was doing. Reason being, hockey and baseball, I played, so to broadcast it, it's very easy. And it is really easy, actually. How else would you explain my first year in the Western Canadian Baseball League last year being named Broadcaster of the Year? I'm like, guys, are you sure? I didn't even know what I was doing. Football, I know what I see. I've liked the games all year. I mean, it's not perfect. I was having supper last night with my friend Navy Don, the guy that watches this show and writes in from Ottawa. He's in Saskatchewan for a visit, and we went to the Pump Jack Social Hall, and we talked about the fact that the CFL is not perfect. Nobody ever said it is. That's something that we love about it. You know? They've all been good. It's always been good. But there have been some blowouts. Is anybody talking about that? I don't see anybody talking about that. That's not good. The leagues don't want that. And by the way, this was Zach Caleros versus Vernon Adams. This wasn't two Rudy Poos, two guys that you don't know their names, that aren't even household names in their own house. That should have been a better game than it was last night. But whatever. It was about, well, if you can market it for the event and not what's going on the field, then you have the special sauce. Then the game doesn't matter. I'm missing some stuff here. There's a conversation going on in the chat. As usual, I'm left out. That's okay. I'm used to it. John Ohm says, is Nathan Rourke playing this weekend? I don't know. And that's why I'm so glad that I don't bet. Don't put money on these things. If I did, I'd be putting a lot more study into that. But that's why we have Jim Barker coming up in the next segment from the CFL on TSN. Colin in Ottawa writes in. He's watching on streaming. He says, okay, Rod, no more third person. Because I said last hour, I can't understand what you're saying because you're speaking in the third person. I don't know why people do that. He says, I came up with a Stampede Bowl idea. CSEC, give me something. I want to see the Saddle Dome before it closes, so I will gladly take Flames tickets. Well, that's us just putting it out there. Trust me, I know that CSEC's watching this show for a variety of reasons. We air on TELUS, what are we, Channel 924 on TELUS Optic TV, TELUS Cable out across Alberta and BC. And let's just say there have been people come on this show. It was not me. But within seconds, they divulged inside information. And they got a call minutes after getting off this show from CSEC. So help a brother out, CSEC, if he came up with the idea of the Stampede Bowl. To be honest, I think the older I get, I have less forceful opinions on these things. I didn't really have an opinion on. I just went along with the notion that they would never play a football game during the Calgary Stampede because that's not what you do. You don't swing on a 3-0 pitch. You don't spit into the wind. These things you don't do. And CSEC decided to swing on a 3-0 pitch. Was it a single, a double, a triple? A home run or a strikeout? That would have been a good poll question for us. Was it a good idea? But I think the overwhelming answer on that would be, yeah, it was a great idea. Just the game wasn't good. And that's not the marketer's fault. It's the Winnipeg Blue Bombers' fault. 902-518-33 as we continue through the quick six show topics just to re-up. The Toronto Argonauts entertain the Hamilton Tiger Cats tonight in the CFL. Toronto snapped an 0-3 start with a big win at Ottawa last week. I read some game notes on this one. Derek Sluka, first player in CFL history to score 2 touchdowns in a game of 100 yards or more, one on defense, one on special teams. Wild. And that is awesome. I mean, it just popped into my head when we were talking about it last hour. Where's Luke Wilson on that? You know, Moose follows probably far more football accounts on social media than I do. But the ESPNs, the Fox Sportses, they were all playing the highlights of Derek Sluka, who is an American from the Northeast. I can't remember where, but he's become a household name. That's why we love the games. That's what makes the CFL great. Never really did understand what Luke Wilson was getting at. I don't really understand what he was getting at. The CFL product has always been amazing. There are other things about it that we don't like about the league, but stuff like Derek Sluka isn't one of them. And that's the other thing, by the way, that you come here for the Canadian sports talk. People want to get rid of the Rouge. Yeah, well, the forefathers never, ever did. There must be a reason. It's like we get this debate all the time about the Memorial Cup format, and people don't like it. And they particularly didn't like it here in Moose Jaw when they were in the tournament a couple of years ago and the host team won. They're like, there's got to be a better format. Well, why don't you try and come up with one? Because they've been doing it since 1974, and it hasn't changed. So there's a reason they put it in. It's the best format. These are the best rules. They've been tweaked along the way in the CFL, in every league. You just didn't like it because you didn't win. For the Winnipeggers, point 4, the Jets will introduce Jonathan Taves at a press conference this afternoon. The former Blackhawks captain signed a one-year deal with the Jets after missing 2 NHL seasons with health issues. The 36-year-old Winnipeg product won 3 Stanley Cups with Chicago and Olympic gold with Canada in 2010 and 2014. Moose and I addressed that. It kind of dovetailed into other NHL free agency signings. I mean, this is I don't like to compare leagues, but I will compare leagues. The NHL largely, I feel, can't do anything wrong. They've done a lot of things right. They're making more money than ever. Don't talk to me about the ratings. Somebody asked me recently, what do you think about the Stanley Cup ratings? I said, I don't go by ratings. I've only been in the business 37 years. I understand they're not fake. They're just so incredibly inexact. They don't accurately represent how many people are actually watching or listening. That much I know because I've been intimately involved in the ratings process for decades. You get a number. We don't know if it's true or not, but it's what we're going to go with because that's what we have. All we're saying is it's inexact. 1:11 Eastern. Thank you, Carlos in Indianapolis. We missed you here yesterday to point that out. John Ohm says, I love the Rouge. Well, I think we all do, and I think the forefathers of the CFL do as well, and that's why it's still in the rules. I just get such a bang out of Milt Stegall. And by the way, Milt doesn't like I tease him, oh my God, so much. Jim Barker, who's coming up next, might remember the two of them did the panel together at the CFL Alumni Legends Lunch last year. Milt was in sweatpants. Now, velour sweatpants, and as Milt would tell you, he makes them look better than anything Jim and I could make look in $3,000 dress pants. They were still sweats. And I brought that up to Milt, and he couldn't believe that I would bring that up. But anyways, he says, what if the Grey Cup ended on a Rouge or a missed field goal that lands off the field? So what if it does? So what if it does? That's the rule. We're not always going to agree. I talk about this. Is it every day, folks, or like every couple days? We're not all going to agree on everything. That's human nature. We need to find a way to accept other people's opinions harmoniously. And if it means walking away, then so be it. That's better than fighting. Darcy writes in from Grand Prairie, Alberta, and he says, how about those Blue Jays? Happy Independence Day to all our future countrymen in America. He's talking 51st state. I don't want to go there. Darren in Melfort writes in and he says, the mustard belt goes to Joey Chestnut. 70.5 hot dogs in 10 minutes. Was that today already? Nathan's hot dog contest is already going on in Coney Island. Man, thank you for the breaking news. From what I've learned of what's in hot dogs, and nothing against the people that make hot dogs. I'm sorry to divulge this. It's not like we don't all know. But our friend Brent in Wellington, Florida, who is a meat salesman, won't touch them. And I haven't had one since he told me that. And all I'm saying is, how is Joey Chestnut still alive? How's he still alive? Anyways, those gentlemen writing in on the Western Dodge text line, drive with confidence, shop Western Dodge in Moose Jaw. Financing, selection, and service you can count on. Get your CFL questions ready, or Joey Chestnut questions, whatever you want. Jim Barker will be with us next. 5-time Grey Cup champion here on the Game Plus Television Network, streaming live and found on all major podcast platforms.
Hiring a video company shouldn't be complicated. Click, pay, done. Skycron.com/Regina.
Hi, my name's Logan Stankoven. And I'm Connor Bedard. We're both Hockey Gives Blood player ambassadors and proud to be blood donors.
There are thousands of patients each year in Canada that rely on a generous stranger to save their life.
Please book an appointment today to donate blood at blood.ca/HGB. Did you know that you can help save a life? And you can start right now.
Stem cells from male donors increase chances of positive outcomes for patients, yet they only make up 40% of our registry.
Today, there are hundreds of people in Canada searching for their life-saving match.
You can be a patient's best hope. Be a hero by registering with Canadian Blood Services Stem Cell Registry now.
I'm Bridget Lacquette. I'm a First Nation Olympic silver medalist, and I'm proud to represent Indigenous hockey players across Canada. Each year, hundreds of Canadians need a stem cell transplant from an unrelated donor to save their life. Anyone can have a hard time finding a stem cell match, but for Indigenous peoples, it can be even more difficult because just over 1% of prospective donors on Canada's stem cell registry are of Indigenous backgrounds. Be a hero. Join me in Hockey Gives Blood in helping to make a life-saving difference to those in need. Register today at blood.ca/beahero.
Shania Twain.
Let's go, girls.
Live in Moose Jaw. Shania Twain. One incredible show. Live at Temple Garden Center, July 7th. With special guest, Lindsay L. Get tickets Friday, March 21st at 10 a.m. at the Temple Garden Center's box office or sasktix.ca. For more, visit shaniatwain.com.
Famoso, Italian pizzeria and bar. Taste, savor, share. Famoso, the spirit of Italian. Come in, enjoy.
This is a test pattern. This is what happens when your video company screws up. You don't want your clients to see a screw-up. Hire a company that only does video, so it won't screw up. Then, people who give you money will see less of these and more of you. Skycron.com/live.
Welcome back to a Football Friday. By the way, our sports updates are brought to you by Heavy Gym. Every rep, every set, every drop of sweat, it's all part of the journey to be becoming unstoppable. Join the movement today at Heavy Gym. Check them out at heavygym.ca. Happy 4th of July, Coach Barker, and to our U.S. friends and viewers. You're still a U.S. citizen. You always will be, right?
Yes, I will. Always will be. And I'll never forget my first 4th of July up here in Canada. I was coaching with the Alouettes in '96. You check the weather report. We went to Edmonton to play on 4th of July, and everybody at home is in the pool, and we had snow in Edmonton on the 4th of July. I thought, wow, I really am where the Eskimos are.
You're
At
like,
that
what did
point,
I do?
they were the Eskimos.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, my God. That's funny. Okay, well, and you spent so many years in Calgary. I want to know your take on this Stampede Bowl and what you know, because what I know of the Stampeders, George Cortez always told me, he's like, Rod, we'll never play during Stampede. All of a sudden they are. So something changed. What do you think? What do you know about why they didn't all those years?
Well, the same thing as you. I went to George also and said, how come we don't play? Because everybody during Stampede is sky high. I mean, it just is. It's that type of thing. When I was hired as the coach, I was in the parade and that type of thing. And there's just, wearing the white hat, and there's just something about the whole atmosphere of that city when they're all wearing their jeans and their boots. I mean, you go to Alberta Boot to get your boots to wear that one week. And the enthusiasm in the city, just you feel it everywhere. And again, to see 22,000 people in the stands after what we saw the week before in the sleet and the sideways rain, it was like a blessing. It was so great to see people having a great time. They had some great things going on. Brett Michaels, and that to me is what Calgary's about. I wish they would have done it back then. It just didn't make sense to me, except that the Stampede is sacred in Calgary. It really is. I never go to that kind of thing. I just don't. But the Stampede, I went every year just to go and to wear the boots and wear the hat, and you're a cowboy. You're a real cowboy for a week, even if you're a kid from LA. So, yeah, no, I thought it was great they did it. Don't know why, but again, never questioned it.
I can only say one thing before we talk about the game. You know that I was raised in that world. And I'm watching the game last night. I'm seeing so many people on the sidelines or in the crowd with their cowboy hats on backwards. And I'm just like, God. Friends don't let friends wear cowboy hats backwards. If you see somebody, Calgary, wearing a hat back, can you tell them, for God's sake, they're embarrassing themselves.
I completely agree with you.
Oh, it's bad. Okay. Don't be polite. That's not the time to be polite. Okay. Wasn't much of a game, though.
No, it was from the get-go. Winnipeg goes on a bye next week, and you hate to say they were looking past this to a bye, and, they just lost to Ottawa, who, again, just hasn't looked real good, and that's the game that they come off of to play Winnipeg, and it just looked to me like Winnipeg came in and overlooked them, and before they knew it, they couldn't get out of it, and, when Zach threw that pick six, the first one, you just got this sinking feeling like, wow, they're never going to come back. And they didn't. They didn't even scare it. When Winnipeg gets behind, they can't do what they do. They can't play bully ball anymore because bullies don't get beat up that bad. They were down, it was 29-3 at the half. And it's hard or 29-6. It's hard to get into what you want to do when you're down that much. So it was a tough day for Zach. It was just, I thought their entire football team got outplayed in every facet. I thought Calgary was more physical. Calgary played faster. Calgary came like they'd been on a bye, which they had. And Winnipeg played like a team who's getting ready. Those guys were all thinking about, am I going to the lake? Am I going to the beach? Where am I going on my break? Because that starts today for them. So it was kind of a classic game of that, and I felt it when that first interception that made it 14-3. I thought, wow, this could be a long one for them, and it was.
So if you're Mike O'Shea, you've absorbed big bad losses with good teams. How do you move forward after that?
You put the film on just to look at a few things. Probably the coordinators won't even want to watch the film because there's really nothing you're going to learn from that. I mean, what it showed to me was they got some problems in their receiving core. They really, I thought what Calgary did to them, where they played that kind of a mushy zone defense, played deep, didn't give them any big plays. You never saw Dembski up a seam. You never saw any seam throws to Schoen, any of those things that they normally do. Everything they did was throwing out cuts and throwing things in between this mushy zone, and they were coming up, and Calgary tackled outstanding. So it was just I thought Bob Slowick did a great job on the game plan, and he has those guys playing the way he wants them, and they'll gain some great confidence from that football game. I thought their front did a great job. Again, they have the best pass rusher in the CFL in Flo Rimolade. So he's going to be back there every snap. He just is. He's nearly unblockable. And when he's in the game, you feel his presence all the time. And I felt like Zach could never get in a rhythm. I thought they were overhauled up front and on both sides of the ball. And you're not going to win games when you do that, especially when you're Winnipeg and that's your calling card.
Kirk from Toronto writes in, he's watching on Game Plus TV. He says, "Hi, Rod. I'll be watching the game tonight from beautiful Madawaska Valley. I'll be watching the Battle of 1873 tonight from God's country. Go Scullers." We got to give some props to the Argos and Ticats. That's special, and that's going on at BMO Field tonight.
Yeah, it's a huge game because both of these teams are 1-3, and Hamilton comes out of the game playing Ottawa twice, but Toronto comes out of the game and out of this game, and if they don't win it, they now have Winnipeg and Saskatchewan coming up here in the next few weeks. Chad Kelly hopefully is back. They're saying maybe now game 7, but again, they need him badly. I mean, people forget they're playing with their backup quarterback. Arbuckle won the MVP in the Grey Cup, and people sometimes think of him like they're playing with a starting quarterback, but they're not. They're playing with a backup quarterback, and we saw what that did to the Montreal Alouettes last week with McLeod Bethel Thompson. I mean, it was truly a different team completely. And that's what I think is happening with Toronto. They are a different team than they will be when they get Chad Kelly back. Just so many things that they do that they can't do without him as their quarterback, both sides of the ball. And I just believe they'll be a different team if he comes back 100%. So this game tonight is monster because you got a Hamilton team who's coming off a huge win against Montreal that hopefully they believe they can build on. And you're playing basically a wounded Toronto team. Their best defensive player, McManus, out. Their running backs, gone. They're going to be playing Kevin Brown, who they had cut. They brought him back. And then Kalen Laybourne that they had cut 2 years ago and brought back this week because Mayan Williams got hurt. So they're playing with basically no running back. The way they won the game, God bless Sluka, Division III player from Ithaca College, set a record like that in the CFL, probably never be broken. To have a defensive touchdown over 100, have a special teams touchdown over 100, it's a great story. But you're not going to win games banking on that happening very often. So, it's an intriguing game tonight, but they're playing a wounded warrior when they come out tonight. The Hamilton Tiger Cats are close to full strength. They have all the people they feel like they need. They've moved Verasek into starting middle linebacker, and I think that made them much better on defense. It just is a game that Hamilton needs to go in to it. It's a tough place for them to play, but they need to go in there and win. And back in 2019, when I was in Hamilton, we came in there and I think we scored 65 points. I mean, it was a throttling. And now, are they going to do that? Absolutely not. But that's the kind of game that Hamilton should come in and be able to play a good, solid game and win the game. If they lose this one, I think they got big problems down the road because I think that Toronto is a wounded warrior right now, and they're going to get nothing but better here in about 2 weeks. And if you allow them to stay close, they're going to end up biting you in the end.
Yeah, I've got the Argos picked to win. They're my number 2 favorite team of all time, since I was a little kid. Riders number 1, of course. And I'm going to get to the Riders in a sec. But people are asking about Nathan Rourke. And I got this roster from the Lions here. He's listed as the starter at Montreal Saturday. Do you know anything about his status?
Well, his status is he's going to start.
Okay.
It sounds like Drew Brown is going to also start for Ottawa. The problem with Rourke's injury, it's a core injury. So that, it's something in his abdominals. And when you're trying to throw Or imagine if you play golf, hitting a golf ball with that muscle being tender. I mean, that's a tough one. So it's going to be interesting to see how Nathan plays. I mean, they need him badly. Obviously, they haven't been able to win a game without him. And, it's one of those things that you lose your starter, you want to think you have a chance to win, but they haven't shown that they can. So it's going to be interesting to watch how he throws. He'll have that real padded up, but that's a tough injury for a quarterback. And then Drew Brown with Ottawa, they got one win with Dustin Crum, but they're not going to win a lot of games without Drew Brown. And Drew Brown's injury, was a hip. And we'll see how it is when he comes back. And he practiced full out yesterday, was limited day one. So they play in Edmonton this week. And, you talk about, you were talking about Joey Chestnut. Do you know the over-under on hot dogs for that was 71? That was the over-under. And he ate, 70 and a half? That's why if you think you're going to beat these odds makers, you aren't. Who could have known that he would eat that many hot dogs?
You couldn't stuff down that extra half. Oh, my God. Simon writes in. Simon says, as a Lions fan, we don't use the lack of our starting quarterback as an excuse for losing. Rather, there is optimism that the team will turn it around when he's back. Lions season is dependent on Rourke's health. Yeah, well, there you go. But as Jim Barker says, he'll play tomorrow. Jeff, the Stampeders fan, says, telling Calgarians how to wear cowboy hats is like me telling a Dutch how to wear wooden shoes. Well, I'll tell you what. Keep wearing them backwards then. You look like an idiot. So last night, I happened to share time with Larry Mueller. I'm not sure if I'm bragging or complaining. But he was talking about his son, Mark, and how he was going back watching old CFL games on YouTube to look at plays and what was being done in this particular decade, and those rules still apply. And I laughed because I'm like, that's Mark. That's why he's the best in the business. That's why you're never going to stop that kid. And I'm not going to out what year it was to help the defensive coordinators out there. The reason I bring this all up is John Ohm in Winnipeg says, the Riders are 4-0. He goes, I know a coach that's 4-0. Corey Mace are the only unbeaten team. Mark Mueller is a big part of that, and Coach Mace would tell you that, wouldn't he?
No, there's no doubt. When Mark Mueller worked out at the Combine, I told him, I said, you know what? You're a great kid. You learn I said, but I will never draft you as a quarterback. But I can tell you this: there's going to come a day when I would hire you as a head coach because you have everything that it takes to be a coach, and he's proven that. I know that. Just listening to Ryan Dinwiddie talk, I've never gotten a chance to coach with Mark, but just spectacular. I mean, I think again, how is he going to be as a head coach? Some guys are good at that move. I wasn't. I was much happier and better as an offensive coordinator than I was as a head coach. It just wasn't my thing, being a head coach. What will that be for Mark? I don't know. We're going to find out because he's going to have a chance because he's got a knowledge of the game and a way of communicating with players that's rare. And when you can put those things together, like I say, I used to meet with his grandfather when I first got the head job here in Toronto. We'd meet once a month, and Ron was just the best in terms of that. So just having been around Ron Lancaster as a kid, you got to know Mark Mueller's going to be good. He's going to be special, and he's proven to be that. And I think he has everything. I mean, Corey Mace has done a great job. That defense is fantastic. But Mark Mueller has gotten Trevor Harris basically playing as well as Trevor Harris can play at 39 years old, in my view. And Trevor Harris brought him in the league back in 2012 in Toronto. I've seen him through all of his things through Ottawa, and he's playing right now the way a solid 39-year-old veteran should. He's getting enough chances to make big plays and able to do it. And he's also got, not making the huge mistakes that he's been known to make. And I credit Mark Mueller for that. So I'm with you 100% on the Mark Mueller bandwagon.
Yeah, I can't wait for him to be head coach. It's coming. I don't know when. We don't have a ton of time left, but there is a big game in Edmonton on Sunday. You mentioned Drew Brown starting for the Red Blacks. That's not good news for the Elks, who go after their first win. How do you see that thing playing out?
Well, the Elks are getting better and better and better. And Drew Brown, you know, he was limited one day, then he goes full. How is he going to be? I think Ottawa's offensive line is pathetic. I've said it from day one that they can't win with that group. They're struggling. They bring William Stan back in, but that's not the answer. They lost that game to Toronto. Probably should have won. You know, the 2 long touchdowns, but they didn't at home. And I worry a lot about that Ottawa team. But we go back to Joey Chestnut, which is what I look at the spread, and they're favored by 2.5 points in Edmonton. And that's kind of surprising to me because Edmonton has been getting better and better. They have nobody hurt. They're, I don't know, you can just kind of see things coming together for them. Again, the thing is Trey Ford. When is Trey Ford going to take that step and be able to make the plays without the big bad plays? And you don't know how long it's going to. It may take a full year of a lot of heartache for Edmonton. But again, they have Ottawa as the favorite. That's one I would say Edmonton would be a 2-point favorite. But actually, Ottawa's a 2-point favorite. Again, I wouldn't want to lay points if I had Ottawa on the road against anybody. And I do believe this Edmonton defense is playing better. I think J.C. Sherritt is learning on the way. I think he's, again, we talked about Mark Mueller. J.C. Sherritt is in his first year as a coordinator, so he's learning. So anyway, I think it's going to be a real intriguing game. I do believe Edmonton's going to win in Edmonton. I just think they're close. They're close, and I think this is the team that they can do it against.
Well, I got Edmonton picked to win as well. I know for a fact I'll be watching. I can't wait. I do love the 4 games in 4 days. I know for whatever reason other people do not, but I absolutely love it. Yeah, it's great. It's absolutely great. I can find 3 hours out of each day to watch CFL football. I can't find 6. Okay, Jim.
Doubleheaders are tough. That's my time.
Enjoy the rest of your day.
All right.
We'll be coming right back after this. Nice timing, boys. Well done. All your comments the rest of the way, and viewer takeover after this.
Famoso, Italian pizzeria and bar. Taste, savor, share. Famoso, the spirit of Italian. Come in, enjoy.
Shania Twain.
Let's go, girls.
Live in Moose Jaw. Shania Twain. One incredible show. Live at Temple Garden Center July 7th with special guest Lindsay L. Get tickets Friday, March 21st at 10 a.m. at the Temple Garden Center's box office or sasktix.ca. For more, visit shaniatwain.com.
I'm Bridget Lacquette. I'm a First Nation Olympic silver medalist, and I'm proud to represent Indigenous hockey players across Canada. Each year, hundreds of Canadians need a stem cell transplant from an unrelated donor to save their life. anyone can have a hard time finding a stem cell match. But for Indigenous peoples, it can be even more difficult because just over 1% of prospective donors on Canada's stem cell registry are of Indigenous backgrounds. Be a hero. Join me in Hockey Gives Blood in helping to make a life-saving difference to those in need. Register today at blood.ca/beahero.
Did you know that you can help save a life? And you can start right now.
Stem cells from male donors increase chances of positive outcomes for patients, yet they only make up 40% of our registry.
Today, there are hundreds of people in Canada searching for their life-saving match.
You can be a patient's best hope. Be a hero by registering with Canadian Blood Services Stem Cell Registry now.
Hi, my name is Logan Stankoven. And I'm Connor Bedard. We're both Hockey Gives Blood player ambassadors and proud to be blood donors.
There are thousands of patients each year in Canada that rely on a generous stranger to save their life.
Please book an appointment today to donate blood at blood.ca/HGB.
Hiring a video company shouldn't be complicated. Click, pay, done. Skycron.com/Regina.
Welcome back, everybody. I'll tell you why I'm smiling. Every time I look at this Houston Texans logo, it's kind of funny. I was going to wear a Dallas Cowboys jacket today, and I don't know why I didn't. I just was the closest thing, and I grabbed it. But been doing these radio hits on 806 Sports, 107.1 FM, Amarillo, Texas now, weekly. And so I was on with them the other day. I guess it was Canada Day, and they played the Canadian national anthem in my honor, but they played the old one. You know, the one before they changed the lyrics from "In All Our Sons Command" to "In All of Us Command." So I didn't tell them that on the air, but I mentioned it here. Well, guess what? They were watching. So they're like, they're like, you must think we're a bunch of hillbillies down here. Oh, we're sorry. I already thought you were a bunch of hillbillies long before the anthem. Who cares? So what? I didn't say what a bunch of knobs they play the old. I like the old anthem better. I didn't like that Trudeau changed it. So I just got to. I'm laughing about. You must think we're a bunch of hillbillies. Yeah, I do. There's more, but I love those guys. And the host's name is Dusty, because of course it is. And Kenny and Jesse. It's the freaking Dukes of Hazzard episode. So we'll be getting Kenny Nagunston here as soon as possible. It's a movie. You realize that. Our life is a movie. 902-518-3033 is the text line for Western Dodge. Don't just shop anywhere. Shop smart at Western Dodge. Proudly serving Moose Jaw and beyond. The Toronto Blue Jays. What an exciting summer, by the way. The Toronto Blue Jays will try to stay red hot tonight against the LA Angels. George Springer hit 2 home runs, and the Blue Jays beat the Yankees 8-5 Thursday night to sweep a 4-game series and take hold of first in the American League East. Toronto has won 8 of its last 10, heading into a 3-game homestand against the Angels. And it's funny, by the way, when these things happen, when it's your team. Similarly to, for instance, the Stampeders and their fans celebrating lustily last night about winning the Stampede Bowl. And our friends in Winnipeg, specifically Michael Wynn from Ice Time Sports, who watches this show, going, congratulations, LOL, Stampede Bowl winners, who cares? Well, yeah, when you're on that side of it, it's not that big of a deal. But when you're on this side of it, like the Blue Jays, and your team is in first place on July 4th, especially when you thought they were going to be out of it by the middle of June, it is a big deal. So enjoy it. It's just that my teams have largely been sucky for so long. I don't know what it feels like to be in first place. And I don't have a lot of teams left that I would say are like my teams. Okay, Regina Pats, been bad for quite a while. That's like the first team that I ever loved. Blue Jays, first. Well, Expos were my team. There you go, Coach. The Expos I love more, but they're gone. So it's Blue Jays, Raptors, and they won it. So that's cool, but they've been bad ever since. As Jays fans, let's enjoy it. Who cares if it's only for one day? It's a big deal. NHL free agency slowing down now with all the big names off the board. Nikolai Ehlers signing with Carolina Thursday and Dmitry Orlov signing with the San Jose Sharks. Also, Brent Burns Wednesday night signed with Colorado. We've talked a lot of CFL here, so I feel like we don't need to cover that. The sports update for Heavy Gym. Heavy Gym isn't just about lifting weights. It's about lifting your spirit, your strength, and your potential. Step into the gym that's changing lives. Find out more at heavygym.ca. We're all saying it. Oh, Janice, the Stampeders fan living in Edmonton, she writes in, she says, many fans in Edmonton are getting excited for Sunday's game. An excitement not seen for the last several years. It will be a good game. Hashtag Stamps fan in YEG. I'm a little upset I haven't seen my buddy Navy Don here today. Went for supper with him last night and haven't seen him since. He was well on his way, if you know what I mean, when I left him. And I headed out to Curry Field to see all my friends there. So, Navy Don, if you're alive, blink twice. Overtime is coming up next. And that is where we will get it all out. All your questions and comments the rest of the way, taking us into the weekend. 902-518-3033. Would love to hear from you. We'll be right back after this brief pause on Game Plus.
Hi, my name's Logan Stankoven. And I'm Connor Bedard. We're both Hockey Gives Blood player ambassadors and proud to be blood donors.
There are thousands of patients each year in Canada that rely on a generous stranger to save their life.
Please book an appointment today to donate blood at blood.ca/HGB.
This is a test pattern. This is what happens when your video company screws up. You don't want your clients to see a screw-up. Hire a company that only does video, so it won't screw up. Then, people who give you money will see less of these and more of you. Skycron.com/live.
Did you know that you can help save a life? And you can start right now.
Stem cells from male donors increase chances of positive outcomes for patients, yet they only make up 40% of our registry.
Today, there are hundreds of people in Canada searching for their life-saving match.
You can be a patient's best hope. Be a hero by registering with Canadian Blood Services Stem Cell Registry now.
I'm Bridget Lacquette. I'm a First Nation Olympic silver medalist, and I'm proud to represent Indigenous hockey players across Canada. Each year, hundreds of Canadians need a stem cell transplant from an unrelated donor to save their life. Anyone can have a hard time finding a stem cell match, but for Indigenous peoples, it can be even more difficult because just over 1% of prospective donors on Canada's stem cell registry are of Indigenous backgrounds. Be a hero. Join me in Hockey Gives Blood in helping to make a life-saving difference to those in need. Register today at blood.ca/beahero.
Shania Twain.
Let's go, girls.
Live in Moose Jaw. Shania Twain. One incredible show. Live at Temple Garden Center July 7th with special guest Lindsay L. Get tickets Friday, March 21st at 10 a.m. at the Temple Garden Center's box office or sasktix.ca. For more, visit shaniatwain.com.
Famoso, Italian pizzeria and bar. Taste, savor, share. Famoso, the spirit of Italian. Come in, enjoy.
Hiring a video company shouldn't be complicated. Click, pay, done. Skycron.com/Regina.
Okay, rocking and rolling into the weekend here on the RP show. Appreciate you. What do we got here? Episode number 1528. Gary in Winnipeg, why are you sending me a photo of Winnipeg Sports Talk? I don't understand. Why are you sending me a photo? Yeah, they're our friends. They come on right after us, 1 p.m. Central. Please tell me. I've said don't send links because I will not click on links. You just sent me a photo of our friends at Winnipeg Sports Talk and carrying the Jonathan Toews news conference. We don't carry news conferences live here because not all of our viewers care about Jonathan Toews, or not all of our viewers care about the Saskatchewan Roughriders. Not all of our viewers care about the Florida Panthers. That's why we talk about all the teams and what's hot. So I don't get what you're getting at, why you would send that. Please let me know. And we'll straighten it all out. Blair writes in from Calgary, Alberta, on the Western Dodge text line, 902-518-3033. Don't just shop anywhere, shop smart at Western Dodge, proudly serving Moose Jaw and beyond. He says, hey, Rod, good to see the boys on PTI give a plug to the CFL about the Stampeders and Bombers game. Really cool. Didn't see it. That is my favorite. Sorry, I dropped my pen. That is my favorite show when I'm back home in the U.S., bar none. PTI. I don't know why. Two old dudes, two old newspaper writers crushing it after all these years on ESPN with a talk show daily. That's kind of what we've formatted this after. Me and Moose, if we had him for the full 2 hours. They don't bring in guests, but they're also only 30 minutes long. We're 2 hours. And it's, when you say that, this popped into my mind. I was not watching PTI. I haven't watched PTI since I've been in Canada because I haven't been in the house. You don't come here to hang out and watch TV. At least I don't. I was in the Queen City taking care of some stuff, visiting a friend, went for a quick supper, and then went out to the Curry Field, which I saw your question here about Gord Curry. I'll hopefully get to that, John. But the point is, tonight, we're home in the Western Canadian Baseball League, part of a 5-game schedule. The Saskatoon Berries are in town against the Moose Jaw Miller Express, the team for which I broadcast on Flow College Baseball. And it's going to be a big crowd. But last night we were talking about the 90s and the Prairie League and how these stadiums were bursting at the seams. And I thought, we're getting good crowds, but we're not getting bursting at the seams. Now, that was pro. What we're doing is college, and there was former major leaguers in that back then. But I was just sitting there because I was a kid. It's been a very, very long time where I would consider myself a fan, not working in the media, buying tickets to go to the games. But that was me in the early 90s going to watch the Cyclones and the Diamond Dogs and the Riot. And I thought, why was I going? You know why I was going? Because they were chatting it up on the radio. And the GMs and the coaches were sniping at each other on the air. And it was probably all WWE stuff, but who cares? It was fun. And the DJs were into it. Or the talk host, Barry Davies. You know, and the newspapers were writing about it. This was in the papers every day. Remember those kids? It's just a different time. We're still getting good crowds, and you're sitting here watching today. You know that we're playing in the league. But back then, it was just special. It was a different time that's, I don't think ever's coming back. Certainly not newspapers. So, John, I will answer this local specific question. John says, Rod, did you ever know Gord Curry? And if so, any stories? He is the guy that Curry Field is named after, the home of the Regina Red Sox, formerly the Regina Cyclones. A wonderful ballpark. I was there last night. It was so bloody hot. 32 Celsius into the 90s Fahrenheit. Great night for baseball. I wish I could tell more stories on that. There was some of the Miller parents were up. The DeGrazia family from New York. I met Tanner, our left fielder's dad. He goes, I love the way you say Rochester, New York. I didn't realize it was anything special, but thank you. Anyways, Gord was, as far as any of us were concerned, the very first and best coach of the Regina Rams football program, and Frank McChrystal would agree, who became the next great coach. He was under the tutelage of Gord Curry. But by the time I met Gord, which I believe he's still alive, he was living in Evergreen Estates, a seniors assisted living facility, which was just down the street from my house in Regina. And I remember going in there to visit somebody else, and Gord was sitting up in the main common area where people that don't want to stay in their rooms sit. And here was Gord with a Rams hat and a Rams coach's jacket at the age of 94 and looked about 54. Very, very, very special man when you get ballparks named after you and roads, and that's Gord Curry. He was just prim and proper and old school, from the Tom Landry, cut from that cloth for the football people and our U.S. viewers. Arlen Bruce III writes in, he says, great morning, RP. I told my buddies VA is the real deal. Also, I hope the new commissioner reinstates my son, AB the Fourth, because he is dominating the IFL network. Happy 4th of July. Same to you, AB. Thank you for tuning in, and to all of our U.S. friends. I think next spring I'm going to do a little southern tour and head into Texas, where my buddy Kenny Nagunst is the general manager of the Amarillo Warbirds of that indoor football league. If there's problems with the audio and the video, we'll own it. We'll own it, won't we? We won't blame anybody. We'll get it fixed. Rich in Edmonton writes in, see you Monday.
Now I'm the whore and the pimp. That's where the money is.
How about that?